Welcome back, children. We are going to learn about the economy and developmental measures of China and Pakistan. Now let us first begin with the case of China. Now after the establishment of People's Republic of China, all the critical sectors of the economy, critical sectors means what? Industrial, agricultural sectors, service sectors, all these sectors which were operated by the individuals, that means private ownership, big landlords and big business people, they were brought directly under the control of the government. That was a great change which happened in China with the establishment of People's Republic of China. Under the single party rule system, all the critical areas which were operated alone by the individuals were taken by the government and it was established under the control of the government. So this reduced the division between the poor and the rich. Otherwise, the industrial sector, agriculture as well as service sector will be concentrated among the major hands. Now, as a part of the measures taken by China, we have to discuss certain topics. The point number one is Great Leap Forward System, GLF. What is meant by this GLF? What are the important measures which were taken by China under this particular system known as GLF campaign or Great Leap Forward campaign? Now, this Great Leap Forward campaign aimed at transformation of an agrarian economy into a modern economy. The main aim of the Chinese government was its transformation from an agrarian economy to a modern economy. So, to transform, however, to transform somehow the Chinese economy from an agrarian economy to a modern economy was the main aim of the Chinese government. So for that they adopted Great Leap Forward system. Now let us see what all things were there in this Great Leap Forward system. Industries were set up in the backyards. What is meant by backyards? Now the place where the people stay, near to that particular area, people were given permission to start industries. So industries were set up in the backyards. Now, introduction of commune system. Now, commune system was introduced. What do you mean by that? People collectively began to cultivate the land and almost 26,000 of communes were formed. So, people began to cultivate the land collectively. So, how many communes were there? 26,000 communes were there. So, it avoided the concentration of land among the major hands. Therefore, people were collectively cultivating the land. Now, this comes under the Great Leap Forward plan. Now, the next measure taken by China was the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution. Now, this Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution was introduced by Mao in 1965. Now, under this system, the students and professionals were sent to work and learn from the countryside. So, this could increase the connection of China with different countries. Now, Russia was a great help for China in this case, but after few years there was a conflict between Russia and China. So, this caused for the breaking up of relationship between them and the help which was offered by Russia to China. Now, the next one is reform measures taken by China. Now, in the initial phase, it can be divided into two, initial phase and the later phase. In the initial phase, reforms were initiated in the agriculture, foreign trade and investment sectors. In three areas, initially the changes were made by China. They were agriculture, foreign trade and investment sector. Now, under this, commune lands were again divided into small plots. Initially, the commune system was introduced, but after some time, it was a failure due to the drought that happened in China. So, again it introduced the system where land was divided again into small plots. But how that measure was taken? Even if the land was divided into small plots and given to individuals, It was not given in the form as ownership. It is not under the ownership of any person. If it is under the ownership of any person, it will go into the big hands. Therefore, the commune system which was adopted earlier was again rescheduled as land divided into small plots among the cultivators, and it is not under the ownership of any person. It will be under the control of the government. But they were allowed to keep all the income after paying the stipulated taxes. So whatever income that they are getting from their land, the income can be taken by them after paying the stipulated tax. The stipulated tax, that means a specific amount of tax will be announced by the government, and that tax will be go to the government. So it has two benefits. A part of the amount will go to the government, and it will be an encouragement for the people to do their cultivation, because they can take the income after paying the tax. Therefore, even if the land is divided among small plots to the people, and even if the land is under the control of the government, people are encouraged to do the cultivation. Why? Because they can take the income from the land after paying the stipulated amount of tax which is fixed by the government. Now, in the later phase, reforms were introduced in industrial sector. Now, under this, private firms were allowed to produce goods. More private firms were encouraged to produce the goods, and the state-owned enterprises, especially the government enterprises, were made to face competition with whom? With the private firms. So, this was the reforms made in the later phase. Now, let us see the next measure of adopted by China, that is dual pricing. What is meant by that? The farmers and industrial units were made to buy and sell the fixed quantities of inputs and outputs on the basis of the price fixed by the government, a kind of subsidy which is given by the government to the farmers and the industrialist. And for other transactions of these industrial units and farmers, after producing their products, all the inputs and the outputs are sold and purchased at the market price. So, two types of prices were there: the price at which they can buy and sell to the government, and the price at which they can buy and sell in the open market. So, there were dual pricing. It benefited both of them. Now, special economic zones were set up by China to attract the foreign investors. What is meant by the special economic zones? Special economic zone is an area in which business and trade laws are different from the rest of the country. Each and every country will adopt their own business laws and policies to attract the foreign investors for increasing the investment. So, foreign investment will improve the economic growth of a country. So, China also adopted the special economic zone. It is an area in which the business and trade laws will be different. China's trade laws and business laws was different from that of the other countries to attract the foreign investors. So, all these were the reform measures and the developmental process made by China. The first one is Great Leap Forward system, then the Great Proletarian system introduced by Mao, then next comes the reforms made in the initial and later phase, initially in the agriculture and later in the industrial sector, then comes dual pricing, and the last one, the special economic zones. So, these were the reform measures and developmental path of process of China. Now, let us see about Pakistan. Now, Pakistan also followed a mixed economic system like India, a mixed economy where private sector and the public sector works together. So, both India and Pakistan followed a mixed economy system. Then, in late 1950s and 1960s, Pakistan introduced a variety of regulated policies for the growth of industries. India also adopted measures like that. Because we have already learned about India in the second chapter, in the 5-year plans, what all measures we were taken. So, a detailed study with regard to India was already done. So, developmental measures with regard to Pakistan and China only will be discussed in this chapter in a detailed manner. But comparative study will be made with India, Pakistan and China. But the reform measures and developmental measures taken by Pakistan and China will be discussed in this video. Already the reform measures introduced by economic reform measures introduced by India was already discussed in your second chapter. The second chapter as a whole speaks about the reform measures taken by India. So you can recollect the points that you have learned from those chapters. Now, so in late 1950s and 1960s, Pakistan introduced a variety of regulated policies for the growth of industries. Now, so with related to industries, you can just recollect what all points you have learned about Indian measures, what India had adopted. It is, we have learned it in a very detailed manner. Now, Pakistan also experienced green revolution like India, increase in the production of food grains for what, to achieve self-sufficiency in food grains. Now, next, in early 1970s, public sector was given importance, and this led to the nationalization of capital good industries. So, in the early 1970s, Pakistan gave importance to capital good industries. Okay, and this led to public sector was given importance, and this led to the nationalization. What do you mean by that? The number of public sector enterprises began to increase all over the country. The number of public sector enterprises began to increase. So this caused for the nationalization of capital good industries, because the public sectors were concentrated in capital goods industries. That is why we say that nationalization of capital good industries. So once again, I stress on the point, in the early 1970s in Pakistan, the public sector enterprises were given importance. They were mainly involved in the establishment of capital good industries. Therefore, with the promotion of public sector enterprises in the nation as a whole, the number of capital good industries began to increase. This caused for nationalization of capital good industries in Pakistan. Now, in late 1970s, the government encouraged private sectors also. Now, Pakistan government couldn't experience that much of benefit from the growth of public sector alone. Therefore, they also encouraged, in the late 1970s, government encouraged private sectors. The same strategy also we have learned when we learned the chapter regarding the reform measures in India, right? I think you can recollect all those points which we have learned. Now, reform measures in Pakistan was initiated in the year 1988. Now, it also got financial help in late 1970s from many Western countries. So, many Western countries helped Pakistan in financial matters, and also Pakistan received remittances from the emigrants to the Middle East. So many Pakistanis went to the Middle East in search of job, and they used to send the money to their home country. So that is known as remittances. So Pakistan also received remittances from the immigrants to the Middle East. So these were the economy and reforms measures adopted by Pakistan. That is, Pakistan adopted a mixed economy system. They followed different policies for the growth of industries. They achieved green revolution. Then public sector was given importance in early 1970s, but in late 1970s, government also encouraged private sector. Reform measures were initiated in 1988. So all these are about the reform measures of both China and Pakistan. Now the next topic is a comparative study of the growth and developmental process of China, Pakistan and India, which is given in the form of tables in your textbook. We have to make a comparative study of those tables, and you have to draw conclusions regarding that. Thank you.